The dead village square was never meant for footsteps at night. No one walked past the graveyard after dark in Umu-Agu. Not even the bravest hunters. But Duru was not afraid. Not of ghosts. Not of gods. Not even of death. He had faced harder things: poverty, hunger, humiliation. So when he saw the money, just sitting there on the edge of a fresh grave like a forgotten offering, his heart skipped with excitement. It was wrapped in a red cloth. Notes of high value, neatly folded. He glanced around. The moon was hidden behind clouds. Crickets chirped. The grave itself was still fresh, the mound of earth still moist from yesterday's burial. His palms itched. He reached for the money. As soon as his fingers touched the cloth, a cold breeze swept through the cemetery. The leaves of the Umu-Agu trees rattled. Something moved behind him. Or inside him. His heart raced, but he grinned. "This is my blessing," he whispered. "My breakthrough." But the wind answered with a whisper of its own. Something cold, ancient, and angry. Duru blinked. The world spun for a second. He stumbled back, money still in hand. From that moment, something inside him changed. He went home smiling. But that smile would not last long. The next morning, he opened his mouth to speak, but no sound came. "Papa Duru," his neighbor Nkem called, waving from across the compound. Duru raised his hand to greet him, then tried to reply. Nothing. He cleared his throat. Tried again. Still nothing. His wife, Ngozi, was frying akara in the backyard when she saw him staring at her, confused. "Duru, what is it?" she asked. He opened his mouth. Tried to say "I don't know what's wrong," but all that came out was air. No whisper, no grunt, just a tightness in his chest and the rising panic of silence. Ngozi's brow furrowed. "Talk now. What is it?" He shook his head violently. His lips moved. But there was no voice. By evening, the whole compound knew. Duru had lost his speech. Just like that. Some said it was a stroke. Others said it was shock. But the old woman who sold herbs at the market, Mama Nwi, muttered under her breath, "Did he touch something that didn't belong to the living?" Ngozi didn't want to believe it. "Maybe it's stress," she said to the nurse. "He's been looking for work, barely eating. Maybe his body just," her voice trailed off. But deep inside, something told her this was not natural. They took him to every healer in the region, but no one could help him. The first priest demanded a white goat. The second poured libations and shook cowries. The third, an old seer from Agbakiri, sat with Duru for hours and finally said, "He offended something older than me." Ngozi wept quietly every night. She watched her husband, the man who once sang during chores and told jokes during storms, now reduced to scribbling shaky words on paper and staring into nothingness. But one night, as she scrubbed his feet by lantern light, Duru quickly grabbed her hand and pointed to the corner of the room. Her heart skipped. "What? What is it?" He pointed again, panicked. Then he froze, staring at something only he could see. Tears began to fall from his eyes. And he slowly lifted his hand, like someone surrendering to a force unseen. She followed his gaze, but saw nothing. Just shadows. And cold. It was the old gravekeeper who finally said what no one else dared to. His name was Papa Udo. He'd buried more people than anyone in Umu-Agu. Walked among graves like they were cousins. When he heard about Duru, he said nothing at first. But 3 weeks later, he knocked on Ngozi's door at dusk. "I hear your husband is still dumb?" Ngozi nodded, exhausted. Papa Udo scratched his beard. "Let me see his eyes." She let him in. Duru was seated by the window, watching the sun fall. Papa Udo stared at him for a long while. Then he said quietly, "He picked it, didn't he?" Ngozi blinked. "Picked what?" "The money." Her heart skipped. "What money?" Papa Udo turned to her, voice low. Someone buried their child with money. It was meant to guide the spirit. It's taboo to take such an offering. If your husband touched it, then his silence is not sickness. It's punishment. Ngozi's knees gave way. She sat slowly on the floor, clutching her wrapper. Can it be reversed? She asked. Papa Udo looked away. If the spirit has not crossed, maybe. But if it has, then. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. In the dead of night, she followed her husband back to the grave. Duru woke up gasping. He couldn't speak, but his body moved with urgency. He dressed quickly, picked up a lantern, and left the house. Ngozi watched him from the shadows. Heart pounding, she followed barefoot, silent as the wind. He walked with strange purpose, like someone being pulled. Through the path behind the village. Past the silent farms. Straight to the cemetery. He stopped at a particular grave, overgrown, with the name already fading from the wooden marker. Ngozi's breath caught. Duru knelt and pulled something from his pocket. The red cloth. He placed it gently on the grave. Bowed. Then sat there, unmoving. The wind stirred. A soft, childlike laugh floated through the trees. Ngozi spun around, heart hammering. But there was no one there. She turned back, and Duru was crying. Silent, broken tears. Something had shifted. But what? The next morning, the red cloth was gone, but Duru was still silent. Ngozi woke up to find her husband in bed beside her, curled like a child. He clutched her wrapper tightly, face soaked in tears. She checked his pocket. The red cloth was gone. Maybe it's over, she whispered to herself. Maybe he'll speak today. She served him pap and akara. Sat in front of him. Duru, try. Just try. He opened his mouth. Nothing. She forced a smile. We'll try again tomorrow. But Duru knew. He could feel it. The money was accepted, but the price remained. The voice had not just been taken. It had been replaced. Because every night, when he tried to sleep, he didn't hear his thoughts anymore. He heard laughter. A child's. And sometimes, it cried too. It was the little girl in the village who revealed the secret. Her name was Amara. Just 6. Always barefoot. Always humming songs she claimed no one taught her. One afternoon, she approached Ngozi at the market. Tugged at her wrapper. Your husband is sad, she said. Ngozi forced a tired smile. He's sick, my dear. Amara shook her head. He took my money. Ngozi froze. What did you say? The girl smiled. I asked Papa to leave it with me, so I wouldn't be lonely in the dark. But someone took it. Papa? Papa Chuka. He buried me. Ngozi's eyes filled with tears. Her hands trembled. What's your name, child? But the girl just laughed and skipped away, disappearing into the crowd like dust in sunlight. That night, Ngozi searched the village records. Found a burial from 2 months ago. A girl. Amara. Died suddenly. Buried with a red cloth. They say some debts are paid in silence, and some in spirit. Duru never spoke again. But he never stopped hearing. He heard voices no one else heard. Felt hands on his back when no one stood near. His dreams were no longer his own, they belonged to a little girl with big eyes and no shadow. Ngozi took him far from the village eventually. To a small town near the river, where people didn't ask too many questions. He started planting trees. Quiet, slow work. And at the base of every tree, he buried a small coin. No one knew why. But he did. He was paying back, little by little. And on the day he died, the trees wept. It was a cool evening when Duru lay down under the biggest tree in his little orchard. He looked at the sky for a long time. then smiled, something he hadn't done in years. Ngozi came running when she heard the branches rattling violently, though there was no wind. She found him lying still. Eyes closed. Peaceful. Beside him, a red cloth fluttered gently, but there was no breeze. And from the trees, soft laughter echoed, followed by a whisper. Thank you. Moral. Greed may fill your hand, but it can empty your soul. Not everything that shines is yours to take. Some gifts belong to the dead, and if you touch them, they may never let you go. Watch till the end. Like, share, and subscribe to Talesbyamanda for more powerful African stories that carry mystery, lessons, and soul. And remember, sometimes silence can be more dangerous than a curse. Stay tuned for the next tale, because every story has a spirit behind it. Thanks for watching.